Anthropic, the company that makes Claude, has gone on record and said recently that AI is possibly or more than likely going to fully replace software engineers within the next 2 years. And at the same time, they are effectively actively hiring over 100 software engineers right now. Literally at this moment, let that idea sink in for just a moment. Now look, I'm not trying to be overly funny or tongue-in-cheek or something like that. That's not what I'm trying to do here at all. But what I'm saying that for is because that contradiction tells you everything, at least in my opinion, that you need to know for this landscape going forward. Opinion on both sides of the coin have the conversation a little skewed. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about why I believe that AI developers are the closest thing or the next best thing to entrepreneurs, especially if you're deciding to do this as a solopreneur. A really hot take. But hopefully by the end of this, I can convince you that that is exactly where things are headed, especially if you decide you want to build your own life and dream instead of building someone else's, especially with the superpower that you have been using or honing for the last 2 to 4 to 5, maybe even 10 years, if you are a developer, that is. And if not, well, this is the best time to actually get started and actually learn how to build something the right way if you are trying to do that. Okay, so there's basically 2 conversations that are happening right now. The first one is obviously the doom and gloom one, which is everything is going away. AI is going to take over everything. Software engineers are going to be extinct and everything is going up in smoke. And look, I get it. I was skeptical too, because I was one of those people who didn't want to see anything happen to my precious job of software engineering, because I, at least for the better part of my life, felt like I worked so hard for it. And especially spending so much time, money, and effort to actually get to a certain point just to feel like the rug is being taken from you. I get it. I was skeptical. But then I started to see this from another point of view. And that's the second thing that I want to talk about, which is the other side of the extreme, which is basically saying that you don't need to know how to code at all anymore. You can just prompt your way to literally anything. Aside from just a landing page, that's not necessarily true. Now, yes, AI has genuinely lowered the barrier for code and code generation. But if you're trying to build something with substantial weight, it is going to need some extra guardrails, so to speak. Here's what both of those conversations are missing. And that's the main point of this entire video. Hey, if we're meeting for the first time, my name is Joel. This is the Coding Shield. And around here, we like to build things that bring time back into our lives based on AI development and business. Bringing both of those things together to redeem time and to spend it with the people that you love and doing the things that you absolutely love, which for me would be comics and cosplaying and all that kind of stuff. So that's the reason why this channel even exists, but more so that I can help, hopefully, someone who has never coded before understand how to use AI and development to bridge those things together and actually build something they can be proud of into the future that actually is sustainable. So if you like that type of thing, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Whether you've never written a line of code in your life or you are a seasoned professional, you're welcome here in both situations. But without further ado, let's get into it. So here's the actual argument, and I want to be precise and a little bit cautious and have a little bit of compassion around this topic as well, because there's some sensitive situations here on both sides. But AI didn't necessarily lower the barrier to entrepreneurship for everyone. It does lower the bar for some people, specifically in the software development world, if you have development experience. There's a reason why I'm saying that. Building a real business takes a lot of know-how. There's a lot of things that if you're just doing this software development thing by yourself in a silo, in some type of office or something like that, by yourself to a desk, literally in a corner or possibly in the middle of a room, there are a lot of things that you just don't understand until you've actually tried to do it, like customer acquisition, marketing, how to actually make your customers stay around, churn, all of these things. Everything connects to one other place or another. So if you change one piece over here, you have to move 3 pieces or maybe even 4 to compensate for that. Now, if that process sounds familiar, that's because it is if you're coming from a software development world. There's a whole bunch of moving parts that you have to bring together and actually make work as a cohesive team. Not only that, you're also more than likely dealing with a bunch of different personalities as well. Even if you're going about this as a solopreneur, you're going to have to deal with other people around you because you're going to need some sort of a team, like a tax professional, more than likely. But for the non-engineers in the room, even those who are very, very bright, and I'm not saying that anyone watching this video isn't, but even for those who are really, really sharp and you've found yourself going into vibe coding and stuff like that, you're probably coming up against some walls because you don't know what you just don't know. Specifically, you haven't spent years of time looking at code and debugging it and thinking through reasoning about code, what should change, why it should change, and all these different things and the trade-offs because of the change, all that stuff. You haven't actually looked at that over a long period of time. And that is probably the reason why when stuff breaks and gets really messy and you don't know what's going on inside your code base, you might actually panic and just throw everything to the wall. Because I can prototype in an afternoon using Claude Code, no problem at all. But the architecture, decisions, the judgment calls on why I built it the way I built it and the structure on why it looks the way it looks, all of that stuff needs to be taken into consideration before you actually write any lines of code. But let me put this in a different way. Imagine you give a really talented designer access to a construction crew and unlimited materials. They can build beautiful things, but if they don't understand load-bearing walls, well, the construction of the building doesn't actually mean anything. More often than not, it might actually cause some harm and even lawsuits. Because the moment your business has any edge cases, security situations, or security concerns that you need to take care of and you don't know how to, that becomes another liability along the road. And you need someone that can actually do or understands the heavy lifting, that can pull the project along, kicking and screaming if they have to. And that person is a developer. And if that's not you, either you have to go and find one or become one. Okay, so now that we've talked through all of that, let's go ahead and talk about an actual path that you can take. Because I don't want this to just be another conceptual video. I really want you to walk away from this video thinking, hey, I can actually go and do this by myself or with one other person if I need to. I think about this developer entrepreneur stack in 3 different steps. And these aren't necessarily in some sequential order, but just in what I believe is the most helpful for your journey and going forward. So, step number 1, build. And I know that sounds a little counterintuitive based on the things that we've talked about so far, but let me explain. Now, obviously, this seems like an obvious one, but I want to be specific here. You're not just building an app to build an app. You should think about building something that is useful to someone else. Case in point, for me, I'm an insurance agent licensed and also a software engineer, but that also means because I don't actually want to pay for a CRM, I'm going to go and build one. And I also have family members who need CRMs as well, who basically, if I build this, then I can get real feedback from real people in my life that then tell me what I need to change and make better. So, like I said, you want to build for a real person, a real people group, if you can, in mind. And when you do this, build small. Make sure your build group or audience that you're building for is as narrow as possible so that you have a pinpoint market and less competition. And more than likely, the more that person will actually pay for the solution because it's tailored to them. Now, when you're building, you don't want to start with actual building of code. You want to start with a high-level overview of what you need first, and then go into the weeds asking different questions with your AI until you come up with a shared consensus. If you want to see how that looks, I have a video that I did on the channel recently that I'll post up here and link down in the description below. Now, the question to ask yourself here is, what industry do I have context and actual experience inside of? For me, that would be insurance, because I actually have an insurance license and have sold some insurance to clients. For you, it may be different. Where have you worked? What workflows have you seen that are broken in the past? That context that you have, that's your edge. That's what you should lean into. For example, a developer who spent 5 years in healthcare building with AI will build a more useful healthcare tool than a developer with no healthcare experience at all, even if they're technically equivalent, because domain knowledge, especially in the era of AI, is crucial to building anything. Step 2, automate. Once you have something that actually works, even if it's a rough version at the start, try slowly to layer in automation. What's a manual thing right now that you can offload to an automation situation? Case in point, something like code review. If you're doing AI generated code, you're not going to be able to read all that code yourself. You should hand that off to something that can automate that code review for you. And then number 3, distribute. Now, this is probably the thing that most developers are going to get hung up on, myself included. I'm learning every day out loud, and I'm going to be very upfront about that because, again, I want to build this community on truth and actually doing the work. So as I'm doing whatever I'm showing on this channel, I'm actually doing. So the last thing is distribute. You have to learn marketing and sales, because distribution, if you understand how to do it and get clients and customers without breaking the sweat, that becomes your moat. Distribution, marketing, how to sell, how to make sure your package is what customers and clients actually want, that's your moat. Because let's face it, at this point, anyone, especially a developer, can build anything that they want, including the thing that you're building. But what they can't replicate is the trust that you've built with your clients and customers, your brand name, and all of the goodwill that you've been placing into actually understanding who you're building for, why you're building it, and talking to your end user to actually understand their problem. Unless they put that work in, no one can replicate that. And again, once you've done that work, put that work in, and actually have the conversations, the trust built, there's nothing that can be done after that. So just to reiterate, that's the full stack. Build, automate, distribute. Build, automate, distribute. Again, build, automate, distribute. All right, so let's go ahead and land this plane. Now, like we said in the beginning, the Anthropic CEO has gone on record and said that AI is going to eat the world, and software engineers included. However, they are also literally hiring software engineers because they still need them. And again, that paradox actually makes complete sense, because once you understand that AI just only placed the boilerplate code, the scaffolding, the making things that are the same over and over and over again, that was just time tax, not necessarily the real hard part of development, because the intuition building, the understanding of what AI confidently will get wrong or has already gotten wrong based on scars and battle wounds and all that kind of stuff over years of practice and development work, and actually bumping your head multiple times and scratching and all the stuff, that's the developer entrepreneur. That's the skill set that is actually going to be needed going forward into the future. If you're going to build a application, a SaaS that you will put in front of actual people and then have them pay you for it, I genuinely think that's one of the most interesting paths to be on right now, which is the reason why I started this channel in the first place. So again, this channel is all about building things with AI and AI development to hopefully buy back time and redeem time inside of your life so that you can use it and spend it doing the things that you absolutely love. So if that sounds like something that you want to find out more about, consider hitting the subscribe button. We'd love to have you around this community. But until next time, till next video, y'all be smooth, blurred out.